This is Brian Strawn. He was diagnosed with epilepsy on June 16, 2016. I wanted to interview Brian and his mother, Sandra Strawn, about life before and after his epilepsy. So I took a trip to Weed, California to ask them some questions.
Well, Brian was born June 17th, 1994, and it was a wonderful birth that my mom attended. Actually, the last birth that she ever saw of anybody in her family. And it was a beautiful experience with everybody there. And we got to bring Brian home and get to know him as a baby. And as he grew as a little boy, he really just blossomed into an amazing little kid that loved to draw and all that.
Brian's early life was like every other kid's. He liked playing with his wrestling figures and loved watching TV. But when it came to school, it was a completely different story.
Well, you know, even though Brian was always extremely bright and sharp, he didn't have a lot of interest in traditional education when he was little. School wasn't extremely important to him, and sometimes he wouldn't turn in his work or this or that. And that kind of caught up with him by 8th grade. They didn't want him to go to the graduation and all of that, and that really affected him. So, you know, he was sad, and I think he at that point really wanted to make a turnaround because he saw the importance of education finally, you know, by the time he was ending middle school.
When did Brian start caring about school?
Well, so Brian started high school, and it became really clear that through his motivation that he didn't belong in a lot of the remedial classes, and they placed him first in regular classes, and then he managed to work his way into a lot of advanced placement classes. He developed a love of history, and he did really well. He tried to join a lot of activities in high school. He joined MESA, which is the club for the math, engineering, science achievement, and they went on a lot of field trips, and he just really put us all into high school, and it became commonplace to get one award letter after another, and I just started getting a sense that, wow, he is really going places. He applied to UC Berkeley and got accepted while he was in high school, and he got accepted into all the colleges he applied for, and he is just on a roll of doing a lot of amazing things.
Brian truly wanted to make something out of himself during high school. He was doing good in all of his classes and on his way to get accepted into a good college. But during the last year of high school, his health was slowly deteriorating.
So what happened is that before all of these accolades and Brian's high school graduation, when he was due to enter his senior year of high school, they had a requirement at the time that each student needed to have a Gardasil vaccine. And so I took him down for his senior year for his checkup and to get his vaccine. That was a mandatory thing for seniors, and everything seemed to be fine. And he continued on with his school year, and everything was okay. I noticed that he seemed like he wasn't well more periods of time, but they were vague illnesses. We went to the doctor a few times and nothing really, you know, was too much. And it wasn't until directly after Brian's high school graduation that he developed a viral illness that put him in the hospital. Almost immediately after his high school graduation, he got a strange rash on his hands and his feet and this and that. And at first they thought it was Kawasaki syndrome, but then he didn't have a super high fever. But it was some sort of a viral illness that was bad enough to put him in the hospital. And he lost his fingernails and his toenails, and weird things started happening to him. And they told us at the time to be careful because whatever this virus was could go to his heart. So they sent us to a cardiologist for 3 years, and they checked Brian's heart, and they didn't find a whole lot wrong except that he had tachycardia, which meant that he had rapid heartbeat. But other than that, they didn't find a whole lot until which time he started, besides the chronic fatigue, he started developing what they call now atonic drop attacks, where he would just like, all his muscles would go limp and he'd drop whatever he was holding. And at that point, shortly after that point,
Brian had developed epilepsy. Brian makes YouTube videos talking about how epilepsy has interfered with his life. But this doesn't discourage Brian. He still loves going on walks and going to the park with his mom. What do you do, day to day? So, like, how do you spend your free time? Like, what do you do?
I try to keep my mind active because I've forgotten a lot of the things that I used to have as hobbies. I used to have a girlfriend. I used to play guitar much more often, like every day. I used to draw much more often, but now I have much less stamina at those things because I have like chronic fatigue syndrome, so I get tired really fast after like 10 minutes of playing guitar. I try to just keep my brain active as much as I can and try to remember those things because my short-term memory is kind of weak, and I basically just I have trouble reading because my eyes, it's kind of it's not a cognitive thing so much as it's more like my eyes kind of get crossed or rolled together. It's like a dyslexia type thing. Like my right eye will be reading the back of the word first, and so like that thing there, I think it says compact, I'll be reading like pack, calm or something, like the letters are just out of order. Well, I feel like it's completely reordered my life, and it's made certain things that I used to be able to do easily just kind of dysfunctional. Like I couldn't just go apply for a job at like some mundane job at like a McDonald's or a Taco Bell because I might fall down when I'm having a seizure and hit my head on like a hot stove, and obviously that might cause severe injuries. So it's like I need to keep it in mind at all times, which really alters pretty much every thought and every action I take or do. Hi, I'm Brian Strawn. I wasn't born with epilepsy, but I developed it later on when I was older. It's right after I just graduated college, pretty much. It's altered every aspect of my life since then, and I'm still trying to get my medication and my seizures and my health care in order. I'm still living with my mother currently, even though I'm almost 25, and I have my AA. I was about to transfer to a four-year college, but I feel kind of, in terms of where I am in my life, like I'm still like a 14 or 15-year-old because I've kind of been set back, like I'm still living at home. I'm not able to get a job. I'm not legally allowed to drive, and I live in Weed, California now, but I was born in Santa Cruz in 1994.